Isaiah 46, verse 10. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. If you married a complete dick and your life is not going that great, if you're not that happy, if your life is not as exciting as you had hoped, if it's hard, if it's grueling, if it's just a sludging, trudging type of existence, I want to encourage you today. Just stick it out, because the end of all things is near. Christ's return is near. Your deliverer from this meaningless existence, or so it seems, it's near. So don't lose heart. Don't think you have to somehow get out of this marriage and, go try to find another one and maybe find a relationship that where you get a little bit more fulfillment out of. Just stick it out. Do the right thing. You don't know how close this is. Now, why did I start with this verse here? Isaiah 46:10. I make known the end. Listen to this. This is God speaking. I make known the end from the beginning. Huh. When is the end? We feel kind of like the people in Ezekiel felt at that time. They think, well, yeah, all these prophecies, they're for the distant future. Yeah, I know the world's going to come again at that day. Or remember what Martha said when Jesus came, back to raise Lazarus from the dead? She said, Lord, I know he will rise again at the last day, like in the future. Sometime in the future, yeah, I kind of know that's going to happen. In Ezekiel, God says to Ezekiel to tell the people, no more delay. You guys are saying this is going to happen, in the distant future. This is coming fast and hard. And people are never ready. When God acts, people are never ready. People always think, it's going to happen in some other generation. It's not going to happen in my generation. Now, let me explain this verse. I make known the end from the beginning. Well, so if we want to know the end, how would we know it? Where would we go? We'd go back to the beginning. Well, what was in the beginning? The 7 days, right? The 6 days of creation and then the Sabbath. On the seventh day, he rested. The seventh day of rest. So why is God pointing back to the beginning if we want to know the future? The end. He says, I make known the end from the beginning. Well, 6 days. Now, anybody who's read the Bible, honestly, will wonder about this 7 day, will wonder about the number 7, right? I was actually just reading in, what was I reading? Jude? I think it says, it just gives a little snippet side note, little phrase that you think, why is he adding here? He's talking about Enoch. He says Enoch, who was the 7th from Adam. The 7th. And it just hit me today. What happened to Enoch, remember? Enoch walked with God. Did he die? He didn't die. That's incredible. He was the 7th. The other 6 died. The 7th. There's something special about the 7th. Anybody who's ever really kind of just read the Bible and thought about it will have this thought that the 7 days represent periods of time, millennia, right? Well, which 1,000 years are we in right now? We are at about the 6,000 year mark from Adam. If you go back to, like, if you look at biblical chronology and you just look at the time, okay, so Adam was year zero. Um, Now, what preceded that? This isn't a debate about the age of the earth. Some people say, "Oh, the world is, God was kind of thinking about things on those. Who knows how the Spirit was hovering over the waters, and the days aren't literal days and all. Okay, you know, forget that for a second. I'm not really interested in that. Whether the Earth is 6,000 years old or 6 billion years old, but for the time, like for our for how do I say it, like the relevant dates for our purposes are that 6,000, and we're looking for the 7,000th, the millennium reign of Christ. Now, those 6 days, they a lot happened. If we think about the 6,000 years, right? Let's say a day represents 1,000 years. That's what Peter says. A day is as 1,000 years. 1,000 years is as a day. So it's not just some made up thing. The Bible gives us this kind of weird kind of symbol where a day is as 1,000 years. And so if we think about those 1,000 years, those different millennia, well, okay, Adam was zero, and then Abraham came along around 2,000, and then David was around 1,000. Jesus was what did I say? So by 1,000 I meant 1,000 BC. Sorry, I'm getting a bit. It's late. I'm pacing around my living room. Um, so so let's say Adam was zero, Abraham was at the 2,000 year mark, and then David was at the 3,000 year mark. Jesus was at the 4,000 year mark, right? I'm not talking BC or AD. We're just starting from the beginning and just going forward, adding up years. So Jesus came on the fourth day. That was the fourth day. And now we're here, 6,000. We're 2,000 years after Jesus. 6,000. So we're at the 6,000 year mark. And if we look around the world today and we think, now we're at 6,000 years after Adam. And we just think about this for a second, and we read the book of Revelation, and we read the Bible talking about just all the signs of the end times. Now, I'm not one of these people that just kind of like, oh, I think this is going to happen then or that, or not at all. But just common sense tells us that this world, things are happening in this world. If we just look every day I read the news, it confirms that the end is coming, and the end is coming fast. We're seeing the world burn up. We're seeing ships sinking. We're seeing birds dying randomly. We're seeing fish dying randomly. Huge quantities of animals. Weird things happening. The weather systems are crazy. People's hearts are growing cold. Digital currencies are coming. All these different ways of like biometrics and just the different ways the mark of the beast could come is happening. We're on the cusp of this. Politics You look at the rise of certain things happening in the Middle East. So what does this all have to do with you? We could be right at the end. Enoch walked with God and he didn't die. We could be right at the end where we will see the return of Christ. Now think about that. Now a lot of people say, oh, we're waiting for the rapture. Other people say, oh no, we're not going to get raptured. We're going to have to stick out the tribulation, right? The 7-year period there. Look, the good news is that Jesus is coming. We are waiting for the King. The King is coming soon. So whether you have to stay married to that dick of a husband, you probably had high hopes when you got married and marriage really let you down, and maybe you've tried really hard to be a good wife. Maybe you have really taken the Bible to heart. Maybe you have really submitted yourself to your husband as the Bible commands. You call your husband your Lord. You view him as your Lord. You're doing everything right. And maybe he treats you like garbage. Or maybe it's just somehow, it's just not a very exciting marriage. It's not a fulfilling marriage. And you're trying really hard and he's not trying very hard. It might be like a situation like Abigail and Nabal, her useless husband, right? In 1 Samuel chapter 25. So take encouragement. Your deliverer is coming soon. The temporary sufferings, they don't add up. That's what Paul says. They're nothing compared to the glory that is awaiting us. I mean, just think about the peace, right? I was just thinking about Psalm 16. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Do you have any pleasure in your life? Pleasures are coming. In the presence of God there is fullness of joy. Just stick it out. Men are in this situation too, like men such as myself who love the Bible, who love the Lord, who are waiting for the return of the Lord. I don't mean his name. I'm talking about the master, my master, who is Jesus. I'm not using the word Lord as kind of a name for God like people do. I'm waiting for my master. It's an awkward thing to wait under the pronouncement that he made to Adam at the beginning when he said, it is not good for man to be alone. And here I am, a single man. I'm suffering under that pronouncement. I wish I had a good wife. There aren't any out there. There aren't any to be found. A good woman who understands the Bible. I have not come across one in my life who actually likes what the Bible has to say about these things. But if you are that one, and you're married to a man who is he's just a dick, or he's somehow, there's something wrong with him, and your marriage, you're just suffering. You're suffering because he's ruling over you. At the same thing at the beginning with Eve. What was his pronouncement to Eve? You're going to want to be the boss, but he will rule over you. He will rule over you. And now he's ruling over you, maybe in a kind of a brutal way. And you don't like it. And you don't know what to do. Maybe you're thinking, well, if I leave him, what about the kids? What about this or that? Will I be able to find another relationship? Will I be able to pick up the pieces of my life? just think about this for a second. We are literally at the 2,000 year mark since Christ. I mean, what year are we in now? Well, right now it's 2023. And that's more than 2,000 years. Now Jesus died in probably 30 AD. That's what they say. You know, whether they can pin it down to an exact year, some people say 33, I think. I've heard some different numbers thrown out, but it's all right in this range. So if we go back 2,000 years to right now, Jesus would be alive right now. If we went back 2,000 years, he might be doing his carpentry stuff. He might be getting ready to kick off his public ministry. Man, I mean, this is exciting times we live in. Think about it, the 7-year period. We know there's going to be a 7-year period coming. That's very clear in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. There's going to be a 7-year period. Now, whether that 7-year period is going to be before 2030, so it would start this year, or whether it's going to start in 2030, or sometime it's going to start, we don't know. He said we don't know the dates. We don't know exactly the dates, but we know the season, and we can think about this. Okay, God loves symbols. He's the one who chooses to use symbols. And so when he says in Isaiah 46, I make known the end from the beginning, he's the one who put in place these days, 6 days, and then the 7th day of rest, the Sabbath day, the Sabbath year. He's the one who created all this stuff. It's not people who are just making it up. I mean, I think some people speculate and they go crazy. I'm not one of those people. I'm just sitting here thinking as an average person and thinking about that verse. Okay, so God is trying to draw our attention to the things to come by pointing us to the past so we can learn from them, right? So the 6 days of labor, right now we're still in that period of labor, but we're right at the end. I mean, it's like, imagine, you've put in a whole week of work, and now it's Friday at like 3 p.m. Let's say you get off at 5. You're eager to go. It's all the work that you still have to do in the day for the next hour or two. It's easier to handle because you know that you're almost out for the week, right? The week is almost up, and then you're going to go and have fun on the weekend and do whatever you want to do. You're going to be able to rest, maybe sleep in on Saturday, and, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be restful, hopefully. But in reality, when Jesus comes back, the Sabbath year of rest, the Sabbath millennium will be exciting and it will be restful. It won't be the type of thing where you put in the weekend and then you're dead on Monday. And then you have to go back to the grind and do the whole thing over again, right? We are at the end of time itself. The 1,000 years, I mean, this is anybody who believes in the Bible, who's read the Bible, will think about this. Revelation chapter 20, right? It talks about the 1,000-year reign of Christ. It's not going to happen unless he's physically reigning from Mount Zion. Where is Mount Zion? Is it somewhere up in heaven? No, Mount Zion is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Mount Zion is Jerusalem. The very center point is the temple, where the temple once was, right? Now, some people say the temple, it's kind of hard to know exactly how this is going to happen. Because it seems to be, from some of the passages, that a temple will be built. There will be a temple there. Now, right now, there's not a temple there. I was actually just there a few months ago. Had the amazing chance to just walk around there. Just me. I wasn't with a tour group or anything, just because I've been reading the Bible for the past few years, and I've recognized this is a book about geography. This is a physical thing. It's not like we're waiting to go to heaven, or Jesus is going to come kind of halfway on the clouds and take us up to heaven and then roast the earth. It's not going to be like that. He's going to come back. The whole hope of the people of God is the coming of Christ. We want to see him. We want to be with him. We want to be in his presence. You know, in the Psalms it says, seek his face continually. Seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face continually. Do you seek his face, or are you just kind of content with, well, you know, I've got the Spirit of God and God's guiding me, and, you know, he helps me with this and that, and I just kind of enjoy my life. And are you waiting for the physical appearing of the King of Kings? The physical appearing, that is, who can even fathom that? That is coming, and it's coming very, very soon. Why would God have made this whole symbol thing? Why would God point us back to this idea of the 7 days, and then just not show up at the end of the sixth day, the 6,000 years? Like, why would he do that? He's the one. I mean, the whole Bible is, see, the Bible is kind of a unique book. It's unique among the other religious writings in the world because it stakes its validity, authenticity on its prophecies. If something comes true, then it's true. If it doesn't come true, well, it was just a lie. What's the point in being a Christian if the word of God doesn't come true? Now, again, we don't know exactly which day it's going to be, but we know the season. We can think about this with the timing. It's got to be at some point here soon. We know from world events, we can see things shaping up to get really, really bad. The shit is going to hit the fan. We don't know exactly how or when it's going to come, but it's going to come soon. And how can a person even prepare for that? You know, if you're a wife and you have a family and you're married to a husband who's maybe lazy, let's say, or he's aggressive, he's whatever, this or that, put your hope in Jesus. He is coming to save you out of that if you are waiting for him patiently in yearning and confidence and hope. Just wait it out. Be patient. Be patient. You know, everywhere you go in this world, everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, you'll find the same advice. Just leave. Do what you feel like doing. Follow your heart. You know, if you're in a relationship and it's not quite going as well as you wanted it to, just break up and go find another relationship. You'll heal, you'll get over it. It's such a self-centered philosophy. It's all about you. It's all about your comfort. It's all about your pleasure. The Lord is coming, and he's coming quickly. We need to get ready for that. And I'm kind of waking up to these things for the first time in my life. This is the joy of whole joy of being a Christian, is to look forward to the coming of the King, to to go outside and look up at the sky, Then look down at the Bible. You say, He says he's coming on the clouds. All eyes will see him. That means your eyes and my eyes. We're going to physically see him and be with him. What's he going to say to us? What are we going to say to him? We'll be able to hear him and look at him. Remember what Jesus said he said, I will, basically, he's going to introduce us to his Father. He's going to speak to us and about us. Well done. You did a great job. Here it is. Father, that wife, she was married to a complete dick. And she was faithful. She waited. She waited. And she did the right thing, even in the midst of trials. She bore her cross well. So a cross to bear is very hard, but that's what we're called to, right? As Christians, he chose the cross. Jesus willingly did that for us. So we willingly bear our cross and just try to do the right thing day in and day out and just wait for the coming of the Lord. He will come. All the words in the Bible will come to pass, will prove true. Right? Though it tarry, wait for it. Though it seem like it's delaying, wait for it. Remember the parable in Matthew 25 that Jesus told about the 10 virgins. He said the bridegroom was delayed. Well, how long is that delay going to be? God, why can't you just come right now? I'm sick and tired of just dealing with all this bullshit. Wait. Wait and yearn and hope and take heart in the fact, in the knowledge that we could be literally living right at the very end, and we may not see death. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, walked with God. He walked with God. Are you walking with God today? I'm trying to walk with God these days, just pacing around my living room here, making these podcasts. It's not easy to be in your midlife. Let's say if you're let's say you're in your 30s and you're a woman, you're married to a bad man. You might be thinking, well, is it too late to get out now and then maybe I can find another relationship and have a bit better? Well, here I am. I'm a single man. I'm not sexually active. I'm not in my condo here looking at porn. I'm not screwing anybody over. I'm not trying to make as much money as I can. I'm just every day I open the Word of God and I say, God, open your word to me. Teach me. I must be ready. Just think about the nature of reality. Where did everything come from? Where's everything going? What is the purpose of life? Is reality really what I think it is? Because so many Christians, they say they believe that Jesus is coming back and they believe in the Bible and they believe in all that stuff. But really, when it boils down to it, is it real? Because people's lives reveal what they believe to be real. And so you can say something very easily like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus and stuff like that. But if you're not waiting expectantly for him, if you don't just take time in the day to just go and sit outside and look up, I just sometimes go look up at the sky and think, I'm not doing anything. I'm not watching a movie. I'm not playing a game. I'm just sitting here waiting. Lord, when are you coming back? And not being complaining. It's very important that we don't whine about this. We pour out our heart, yes, to God, and he hears us. But right at the very end, do you want to be complaining, or do you want to say, Lord, when the time is just right, you will come back, and I'm waiting here with eager expectation, longing to see you, just longing to get to know you in real life. When the veil is removed, Isaiah chapter 25, remember, he says, on this day, on this mountain, the Lord of hosts will, he'll prepare a feast for all peoples, and on that mountain, the veil that is stretched out over all the nations will be removed. He's going to take it away. We're actually going to be able to see reality for what it truly is. Because right now things are veiled. We can't see angels. We can't see, we can't see God. We can't see the beauty that is kind of described in Revelation about the throne of God and all that stuff. We can't really see it. Now is the time to trust him. Now is the time to give him our loyalty, our commitment, our allegiance. To put our life in his hands and just wait it out. It's not the time to get exasperated. It's not the time to get disgruntled. Just wait. What attitude do you want to have in your heart when that instant comes when Jesus returns? What do you want to have? What do you want to be thinking about? What do you want to be doing? What do you want your posture to be toward your family, toward the Bible, toward everything in your life? Just think about how would you want your life structured when he actually comes back, and just work toward that. I'm trying to work toward that. It's hard. It's very, very uncomfortable. But compared to what Jesus went through, compared to what God has dealt with throughout all of history here, my sufferings are nothing. They're really nothing compared to that. So when we focus on the cross, when we focus on his covenant, his kingdom, these types of things, and when we make sure that we are in covenant with the living God, taking his body and his blood as often as we can, being in his word as often as we can, thinking about him, yearning, hoping, just looking at the sky. Remember when when Jesus went up to heaven, the people were just kind of staring up into the sky, and the two men there, they said, "Why are you just staring up into the sky? He's going to come back the same way he went." To just imagine a man descending on the clouds, or however it's going to be, is just, it's mind-boggling. But that is what Christians believe. That is what they have always believed. Do you believe it? And very often I pray, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. Just, God knows that it's hard. And that's why it's so precious to God when we are faithful to him, even when we can't see. It's just a blessing to God when we do that. It's like if a husband, goes away, let's say on a business trip, and his wife is just faithful to him. She does the right thing day in and day out when he's gone. She awaits his return. She's loyal to him. She prepares herself. She prepares the house. She prepares her family. She prepares everything for his return. And then when he returns, that is so precious to him. The fact that was her heart position while he was gone, that is just so precious to him. And that's how it will be with Jesus. What we did for him, our faithfulness will not be met with an attitude of like, oh well, that was kind of just the bare minimum that you guys were supposed to do. You're supposed to do a lot more, actually. And no, it's going to be precious to him. He knows what it's like to suffer. He suffered. No suffering was like his suffering. Remember, that's what it says in the book of Lamentations, I believe. It says, whose suffering was like my suffering that was inflicted on me, that the Lord brought upon me in the day of his fierce anger. And it's talking about Jerusalem. It's a lament over Jerusalem, but the king and the city are one, right? The words about the city can also apply to the king. The words about the king apply to the city. They are one, and they're the king and the kingdom, they're one. He bore the sins of the city. He was kicked out of his own city, nailed to a cross. What a tragedy of all tragedies. He was betrayed. He was sold by a friend. So much happened right there toward the end. It's mind-boggling. But he's coming. When he said, "This is my body," I've eagerly longed to eat this meal with you. He's been so eagerly awaiting that, right? I'm going to prepare a place for you. All these things. His heart, he's not just, blind looking, or he's not looking at something else. He's not looking at a different people somewhere else on a different planet. We are his chosen ones. He loves us. He's waiting to come back to be with his faithful followers. Those who chose to be him, those who bound themselves to him by sacrifice. Have you sacrificed anything for God? I mean, he sacrificed for you. Is a relationship just kind of a one-sided thing where you say, well, he did that and I'm just going to do nothing? No, you meet Jesus at the place of his cross, bearing your own cross. That's what we do, right? And that's why getting out of our uncomfortable position that we're in, we need to be very careful that we don't live self-centered lives. I could go to another country. I could be just getting pleasure. And that is tempting all the time for me. And what am I doing right now? I'm pacing around my living room, waiting for my king to come back. I love him more than women. I love him more than anything. But I must be faithful to the point of death, right? So if you're in a situation where you're suffering, you're just under pressure, just take courage, take comfort, and try to take joy in the fact that you're doing the right thing. Now, if you're a complete bitch and your husband's a complete dick, well, what are you gaining by that? But if you're a good woman, if you're trying to be a godly wife, if you try to make him your Lord, if you submit yourself to him, that is not going to go unnoticed by God. Because 99.9% of women don't try at all. So if you are one who tries to understand, know that God will probably use you in incredible ways, biblical proportions. Esther saved the entire people of God. I bet she didn't realize what was going to happen when she was growing up. She probably just felt like kind of a nobody. She was living with her uncle Mordecai, and they were in exile. And how would she know that she's going to end up saving a people, the people of God? Wow, what a ministry. What a work that God did because of her humility. She was a great wife. Just be a good wife. Focus on being a good wife and pray for your husband. Pray for the Lord's return. Eagerly, oh, when are you going to return, Lord? I'm just waiting. I can't wait. I can't wait. One thing I ask of the Lord, this do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. I mean, if you have that heart, you're like David, just yearning for God. And David was one of the giants in the whole Bible, one of the giants of the faith. Do you long to be in the courts of God? Which psalm is it? Somewhere in the 50s or 60s, I can't remember. It says, "Blessed is the one you choose and draw near to dwell in your courts." Something like that. Blessed is the one you choose and draw near to dwell in your courts. I think people have this idea that kind of like, well, as long as I make it into heaven and everybody's going to be there that I love, and it's going to kind of be like a big family gathering or kind of a party, and who really cares about, as long as I make it in there, what difference does it make where I live? Just build me a cabin in the corner of glory land and I'll be fine. That wasn't the attitude of the people who loved God in the Bible. They wanted to be in his house. Better to be a doorman in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of the wicked. Right? They yearned for that, to be near God, to be in his home, to be in his presence. Hide me in the shelter of your wings, and tuck me away in the secret place of your tabernacle. Just basically just take me to be with you. Moses said in Psalm 90, "Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations." He got it. He's, this world, our temporary dwellings, our structures, our homes, like really our home is with God. There's a phrase that we use, home is where you hang your hat. That's not true. Home is where you have your Father. Where is your Father? That's why we pray. The most common prayer all around the world is our Father. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Stay up there for a while. I don't want to see you. No, thy kingdom come. Our Father, thy kingdom come. We want to be with him in his kingdom. Physically, this isn't a spiritual type of thing. And when you realize that, the Bible becomes really interesting to read. It becomes really exciting. It just comes to life when you realize that our position as Christians now is waiting for the return of the Lord. It's not waiting to go to heaven. It's not waiting to die. It's not waiting for anything. It's waiting for the return of our King. That makes everything exciting. And so then you start to wonder, okay, where is he going to come back? Like, physically, where is he going to return to? I remember over Y2K, just before Y2K, I heard I heard that a bunch of Christians, I was just a kid at the time, I think I was 12 years old, and I remember hearing that Christians were going to Israel for Y2K. And I remember thinking, are they dumb? Like when Jesus comes back, if he does come back at Y2K, he's just going to take us up from wherever we are in the world. And he's just going to take us up to heaven from there. Why does it have to be from Jerusalem? My entire understanding of the Bible was wrong. I didn't know that it was his coming and his feet touching down on this earth that was the good news, that what we were waiting for. You know, remember what John says in beginning of Revelation chapter 14. He says, "Then I looked, and there before me was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion." Jesus standing on Mount Zion, there in Jerusalem. What is your position going to be toward that? What is your relationship going to be toward that man? Not a spirit, a man who you can see and touch and just look at. I mean, no wonder John was just you know, in that book, or in that vision, in his vision, he was just, it was mind-boggling. It was just, he was out of it was just earth-shattering. Like, it was the most profound experience he ever had in his life. To see the glory of God, the saints in heaven awaiting the judgment. Like, oh, the time is near. The time is very near. So, my dear sisters, if you are following the Lord wholeheartedly, encourage your brothers as well who are trying hard and who are suffering as well. It's not just you that's suffering. Many of us are suffering in some way. Suffering with health issues, suffering with depression, loneliness, hurt of different kinds. All kinds of just different issues. We just wait. The time is near. Stay faithful to Christ to the point of death, and he will give you the crown of life. The joy awaiting us is insane. Keep doing the right thing. Keep it up every day, one day at a time. Don't think a day is just a small thing. You know, do not despise the day of small things. What does that say? And is it the book of Haggai, or is it Zechariah? I think it's can't remember now. Do not despise the day of small things. I think it's Haggai. Yeah, or one of the post-exilic prophets. It's right at the end of the Old Testament there. Anyway, God bless you, and stay faithful. Just keep it up. You're doing great. Do the right thing. Don't be a bitch. Learn how to be a good wife, and God will be honored through that in ways you have no clue. That is such a rare, precious jewel. Thank you for being amazing, and God bless you. See you over in the next video.